Welcome to the I Am CiCi Beacon Talk Radio Show. I Am Beacon Edition. We will go into our I Am session on the topic of unhooking from stress and hooking into self-care as a beacon. Part of why being a beacon can be stressful is that you're learning your way. You're learning what you need to be doing for yourself and as a illuminated pillar of light. And a lot of the times what we stress ourselves out with is we don't understand the power of our light. And I have found that being a beacon, you can overwhelm yourself with things that just really shouldn't bother you. And that's just because your life itself can have a lot of ups and downs, things that happen, and it causes us a level and depth of unpleasant feelings. And being a beacon, you're learning how to process all that and enlighten yourself in that. And I'm going to take you into something I thought was pretty cool. And this is from the Illuminations. And I also suggest you pick up a First Testament of the Illuminati. Let's go to page 106. And I'll read you a cool illumination I like to go and think about. Is everything in the universe has a purpose. Indeed, the invisible intelligence that flows through everything in a purposeful fashion is also flowing through you. And that's by Wayne Dyer. And I'll read this out to you because I think this is very interesting before we go into the stress thing. Because we're going to talk about what stress does to the body. And then we're also going to talk about unhooking from it and then also ways to self-care from it. There is a purpose for your life. It may be difficult to understand why you are here, but the laws of the universe require a reason behind every existence. Every person, from the least to the greatest, is a unique mind from its own individual part to play in this universe's design. There are many colors in the grand tapestry of life. All people are equal strings. In that, a lot of the times as beacons, we think we're insignificant. But think about this. You have every bit of importance as the top person in the world to the person at the bottom of the floor. Everything is about abundance, unity, and advancement. The eternal circle, and the light, and the all-seeing eye, and then you have the whole entire mark all together, right? So, you may feel as if you're lost in your own skin, unsure of what you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. But even the wisest spinner lies searching for the meaning. Even the wisest cannot fully this great it's like basically fully answer this great conundrum. Because here's the thing, we get stuck in the who, what, when, where, and why instead of just flowing freely and being enlightened and learning enlightenment day by day. Sometimes I think we all get stuck in that I want to know, and I think I know everything, and therefore we know nothing. But the smartest, most wisest man or woman is one that knows nothing at all, but strives to learn every day something new or picks up something to shed more new light to themselves or others. Life is not about beginning or an end. It is a journey of many steps. Only when you reach the end and look back will you finally see the truth of your full purpose in life. And that's the whole thing. We're talking about the values and whatnot. And being able to identify all of these different things, connecting the dots, and being able to finally get to a point that you kind of get it. Like, literally everything doesn't have to make it make sense, but it needs to make enough sense for you to kind of go along each day with enlightenment. And that's where your testament comes into play. The First Testament of the Illuminati is a very, very, very good book for you to start out with and for you to take enlightenment to the next level. And then when you pick up your illuminations, that piggybacks off of that and allows you to kind of better understand it, but in layman's terms and a less deeper level. And as you go along, you'll learn more. So with that, we're going to talk about the effects on stress on the body. The reason why I like talking about it is that, have you ever been in that moment where everything is like stress, stress, stress? You're just constantly just aggravated, agitated, or something's always going on. You want to get to the point that you understand that stress can actually deplete your body of important things. It will affect different things such as your skin, your muscles, your lungs, your liver, your heart, and your blood, your sweat glands, and your bladder, and other areas and orifices like your rectum and things like that, due to the fact that it's your parasympathetic nerve and your sympathetic nerve. And with that, your central nervous system has a thing called adrenaline. And then when you think about it, when you're constantly stressed out, what does your body do? It pumps more cortisol. And then on top of that, that's part of what feeds adrenaline. So when you get all amped up and upset and stressed, what are you doing? You're affecting your body. And think about this. If you're affecting your muscles by tension, which means you're always in a readiness for action instead of being relaxed. Your lungs, your air passage dilates, breathing more intense to provide more oxygen to feed, increase their blood supply. Your liver, glycogen converted to blood sugar to give short distances energy, but it also winds you and wears you out over time. Then you have to think about your digestion. Processes shut down as blood is diverted elsewhere. Your mouth goes dry and you tend to kind of feel faint and you kind of feel a little bit dizzy and things like that. Your heart, it begins to affect your heart because your heart pounds. And then with your heart overworking itself, it takes time for it to rejuvenate itself. So the less you stress, the more that you give yourself time to live longer. And you want to live a long life as a beacon. And you want to also become more illuminated, more enlightened and light, and being able to feel the light in your body, that energy, that soul caliber, that feeling of like emotional, I can do anything, you know? And then you have to think about how that carries the sugar through your body and your energy and things like that, and your body's eating it up. Then you think about the hormones and like adrenaline and things like that that depend on all of that. So then you're starting to make your body go out of whack, and you don't want to end up having a lot of illnesses, issues, and problems due to being stressed all the time. Then you have to think about your blood. It thickens and it helps to carry more oxygen, fight infection, and stop bleeding. Then you have to think your sweat glands start to cool and underlying overheated muscles and things like that. And then your bladder and rectum and things like that releases like excess things. So you end up having issues with your bowels, you know, or going and doing things regularly that you normally would have done. And think about this, how that is all tied into unhooking yourself from stress and self-caring. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you'll end up getting the physical signs of stress. And that is usually muscle tension, headaches, sleep disturbance, tiredness, increased breakouts, rapid pulse, nausea, indigestion, increased sweating, flushing, like your face getting all hot, prolonged, frequent headaches, susceptibility to mild illnesses or major illnesses. Think about the warning signs that come along. You know, behavioral, your appetite changes, your compulsive eating, you might be binge eating, or you might be doing things to compensate for when you're stressed. You don't want to do that because that's when you affect your weight and it goes up and down. What does that affect? Your heart and the rest of your body. Then you have to think about like how your behavior might be affected by that. Impatience, carelessness, hyperactivity, poor productivity, low energy, avoidance of situation, places, change in sleeping patterns. Then you got to think about emotional. That goes hand in hand with mental health, with behavioral and emotional, because those things get affected with anxiety, sadness, moodiness, grumpiness, loss of sense of humor, withdrawal, feeling of isolation, low self-esteem, feelings of guilt and shame, then extreme anger or overreaction or underreaction, or you start beginning to be all out of whack emotionally to the point that it affects your behavior, and then people start looking at things, but they're not understanding you may be too stressed out. Then on top of that, overwhelming feelings of panic and anxiety. And that's where I was talking to you guys about the mental health part. Make sure that you're maintaining your mental health while you're going through learning how to be a beacon and a pillar of light and becoming more enlightened. Don't put more pressure on yourself than you need to, because the main part about it is about health and wellness and well-being, is that as a beacon, that's part of being illuminated. And also in your illuminations, it covers that at page 106 and going forward about that. And so what you want to do is also make sure you're getting a good, clear understanding within the text as to what that means. And you've got to be able to eat well and get yourself to where you're resting well, all these different things. And where I'm going to go into is getting unhooked from stress. The reason why I say this is because it's part of the series that I've been doing with you beacons on values and also connecting the dots, and then also understanding the things that are most important to you, and then from there getting your life compass together so you can get hooked. You can get hooked into de-stressing. So the more that you understand all that part, that gets you to the next part, alongside of you reading your testament, your illuminations and whatnot. That will help you to be able to kind of balance all of that out and give yourself a momentum to go forward. And then in the act of de-stressing or learning how to de-stress, you have to understand how you act. Um, we talk colloquial of being hooked by your mind and hooked by your thoughts, by which we mean you get all caught up in your thoughts and they exert a strong influence over your actions. So think about this. If you're around people or if you're actually doing things for yourself or are in an environment that's affecting how you act, behave, how you think, how you eat, how you sleep, that affects your actions and how you exude yourself as or extend yourself out as a beacon or a pillar of light or a illuminated walking journey of where you're going to be at in your future self, your best version of yourself. In that, your actions have to be worked on while you're at it. So think about this. In what situation does your mind manage to hook you? What sort of things does it say in order to hook you into those thoughts, those feelings, whether they're self deprecating or whether they're elevating or illuminating? How do you manage to unhook yourself from the stressful parts? Think about this. We're going to do an exercise, which is where we're going to put a journal here, and you can get those either at dondivacoaching.com or you can get them at imcc.com because I'll have that loaded by next month, and you'll be able to get your little sheets and things like that to help you self-help as a beacon and whatnot to actually understand your I am beacon part of life and get yourself in a mode that you understand what you're doing. And then on top of that, while you have your testament, your main things that you need and your illuminations that will help you to really, really get yourself to where you need to be at on that. But I'm a life coach outside of this, so if you need any coaching outside of that, whatnot, not to take away from anything Illuminatium or anything like that, that's totally separate from what I do. I'm just a life coach outside of that. That's my profession. But I'm letting you know that I'm willing to coach you along as a beacon and whatnot in the coaching practice and whatnot. But again, I'm not here for a shameless plug for that. But what we're going to do on this exercise is that for the date, time, you're going to write that down. Then you're going to look at the triggering events or situation at that time. Then what did your mind say or do to hook you in that moment? Was it positive or negative? Then how did your behavior change when you got hooked into whatever pattern of thinking that you had? And then what did those actions cost you? Was it good or bad? Then from there, did you manage to unhook yourself and from the stress, and did you manage to hook yourself into a level or mode of elevated, illuminated light? Did you feel yourself feeling some type of light energy? Did you feel yourself feeling good, or did you feel yourself down in the dumps and ready to scream? Then from there, start writing these different things down. And what we're going to teach you next is to expand that, expound on how you're feeling, to start looking at what the meaning of expansion is. Like, expansion means opening up and making room for difficult feelings, urges, and sensations. Therefore, therefore, like legitimately allowing them to flow through you without a struggle or a level of stress. Then you don't have to like or want these feelings, but you just make room for them and allow them to be there, even though they're unpleasant or they make you feel uncomfortable or very stressed. Then from there, once the skill is learned, if these feelings could be ever managed or where they are at a point if you ever get resurfaced in your stress level, you should be able to rapidly make room for them and let them flow on by and flow through you so that you can go to the next level and step and understand why you're stressed, where you're at with that thought process, and you can invest your time and energy in doing meaningful, life enhancing